Oh, also, why do I have my headphones on? I don't need my headphones. You got 3 eyes on YouTube. Are we back? Are we back finally? Why are you doing this? Let me see Twitch. It's Restream having issues, maybe. It shows I'm streaming. Oh, you can hear me now? Is it working? It's still frozen on Twitch. It seems. Why is... It's back on YouTube, but Twitch having this... Is Twitch the one having an issue? It's Restream that's having the issue. Why are you not streaming? Don't make us just go to 1. Let's see. The video should be live, but why is it not live? Why? It's never had this issue before. Let's see. Wait, do I have 2 instances of Marvelous Designer running? Cancel. No, I just have the... Let's see. Are we back? It was working a minute ago. Okay, I see. Okay, we're back. Finally, sorry about that. I don't know why that was doing that. All right. So I know what I did. And I was simulating 5 layers in Marvelous Designer on another program of Marvelous Designer in a different window. So don't do that while streaming. It's my fault. Definitely my bad. Don't simulate 5 layers all at once while simulating cloth in another simulation. Because normally it's fine because I've got two processors here. Don't do that. Don't forget you have something else running in the background. Yeah, it's a good tip. Number 1 tip. The best tip. Nah, you're right. I didn't know I was running a second thing of Marvelous Designer. That's my bad. Hey, we learned something. My PC normally can, but the problem is I was simming overnight and I forgot. So don't do that. Don't leave your computer simming overnight because that's what happens. But hey, lesson learned. You guys got to see exactly what happens and you can't stream if you do that. So my apologies, everybody. Okay, you can see it now. Where were we? I'm gonna close restream. Okay. So, pleats and internal lines. So you can do this. So this one is a, okay, so I've swapped over to a different material. As you can see, if I have a heavy and sturdy material, if I simulate, I've swapped to GPU because there was a request for GPU. You can see here, the one issue with GPU is you can see right here, is it does not respect collision like CPU normally does. So it's good to kind of like simulate large amounts of fabric, but this is going to be an issue that you're going to encounter. So you want to do GPU first, then CPU. So I've also swapped over to the cotton Oxford, which is a thinner, more drapey fabric. Let me go to normal simulation so we actually have proper collision. There we go. You can always use if you have version 9.5 Alessio, you can use remesh to retopology and then adjust that topology using the create topology tool. You can just use the edit tool for that. Why is there extra fabric on the sides that is not sewn? Okay, so because of the pattern, this pattern specifically, I just took it off the internet. It's part of a swag curtain. So this would actually sew, let me actually just make it. So the reason there's excess on the side is because you would be doing this. It sews to another curtain. So I'm gonna freeze this. And then I'm gonna choose in the 3D window. I can let this slingshot, or I can right click and, oh, did I not set the sewing? I'll just create a pleated curtain or gather curtain, and in the 3D window, using the move tool, right click, I can choose superimpose side, and it will do that, but that's okay. Well, maybe I'll use GPU for this one. And then we'll go to CPU, so it's less angry. Stiffen it so it pushes itself out. So the reason there's that excess that's not sewn together is because this would actually sew directly to, come on, move, to the edge of another curtain, because this is specifically a decorative valance or valance. So watch, if I do this. Where are you? So we have this guy sewing here. These excess pieces would sew to the other portion of the curtain. I keep wanting to sew in 3D. I'm like, no, it'll be easier. And I will unfreeze this, and that is why it has the extra. See? Oh, I missed a lot of questions. Yeah, Michael, this is why it has the extra, so it looks pretty consistent, right? It looks much better now. I'm not using, I'm using normal, not complete. Complete brings everything kind of down to like 5 particle distance, and you want to do that when you're animating at the end. So that's why this is here. But the whole point is internal lines and applying angles here. I'm going to remove the link to editing across the mirror line so I can create internal lines. And I'm just going to draw them from point to point. And I'm hitting enter to finish. So this is going to help create and engineer exactly where I want the folds to go instead of just letting it naturally drape. Because you have those options. I am currently simulating this at 20 particle distance, so I'm going to cheat and I'm going to lock all my exterior patterns, select all my interior ones, edit curvature, and then I can just make this more curved. Because here I can start engineering exactly where I want the draping to go. And this would work for saris especially, or any kind of anything that requires pleating, and kind of exactly engineering where you want your gathering to go. People had questions on how to make, it's just a Q&A. Someone asked how to make this specific thing, so I'm showing them how to make this specific thing. And then we have the fold arrangement. So you can do it in 3D and send, like I can rotate this forward, which would send this one back, as you can see. And then I can basically I can cheat this as well, just by using the pleats fold tool, and I can just go across all of the internal lines. Oops, escape. Double click, knife pleats, and make them 3, and then simulate. And you can kind of make it severe. I think this might be going in the wrong direction, or I might just need to pull it some more. Let me strengthen it so we can see what happens. Oh, I've put it in the wrong direction. I want this to be reversed, so it's blue. And now I can just pull it and play with it while it's simulating and see how I like this. Can I make a RuneScape character? I can make clothes in Marvelous Designers, in Marvelous Designer, but I can't really make characters. Let me unstrengthen this. So you have a few options. I just kind of cheated it because I'm trying to go fast because I screwed up the stream a little bit. But you can play with your fold angles, and that's how you're going to get pleats and draping. Oh, I did it again. Reverse direction, so it's blue. And if I just hide internal lines, you can see that it's draping a little bit differently than when I actually had had it just draping without it. It does look like I need to pull it down a little bit more, specifically here. Would there be anything stopping you? No, a lot of people actually make a lot of stuffed animals in Marvelous Designer. I've seen a bunch of really cute teddy bears recently that people have been sculpting, or, you know, making in Marvelous Designer, and it's really cute. But see here, I can specifically set how I want my fold angles to drape, and that's going to set and change how this drapes. So this is just something really simple. Unfortunately, we don't need a lot of these. Just an example. There we go. If I want this here, so I'm just going to use my C hotkey. And in fact, I'm just going to cheat this and move things. So for all of you draping things, this is what's gonna be kind of your workflow to get a really natural drape, because now I can pull out specific points that are draping naturally and adjust them as I want. What is the hardest thing to make in here? That's a good question. So that's just a super simple internal lines. How to drape a swag curtain. I will do one more. Let's see what I missed here. Hold on. You can make a cape. You can specifically engineer your drapes how you want, but honestly, it's a little bit easier just to let it drape at a 5 particle distance and then see how it works. Because then it's, you know, you're getting a natural drape of the garment. Let's see. What is the hardest thing to make? Probably shoes. It really depends on the complexity of the pattern that you're working with, as well as anything with multiple layers. So I've done things with about 7 layers, and it tends to just get slower and slower because you're simulating 7 layers of fabric on top of each other in real time. So it's just things with more complexity and more layers. That's going to probably be the hardest thing. But otherwise, the only hurdle that you have is you can make shoes. The only hurdle that you would have is just layers, and just layers and patterning. If you don't know how patterns work, like how the swag curtain had that excess on the side specifically because it's sewing into another panel, that would probably be the hardest part, is understanding patterns. Like, I have another one that I was going to do. Oh, I didn't want to delete that one. History, come back. Which is this one. How to get this kind of a drape. It's from this shape of a pattern. So really the only difficult thing is understanding how patterns work, and as soon as you kind of get a basic understanding, you can just create anything you need. Save image to desktop. Yes. So I'm going to trace this and I'll show you how this works. Let's not do 100, let's do 200. Not 2,000, thank you. So I have this here. Let me bring up the chat again. I will add, do you mean slayers as in like the anime slayers or slayer cape? You can use pattern manipulation here, but I'm just going to trace this because it's going to be easier. And I'm going to show you how you can use this to just be without internal lines. Probably going to sneak in and use partial freeze. Oh, I don't know RuneScape. You can make a cape. If you want to make a cape, you can easily make a cape in Marvelous Designer. So I'm going to cheat, and I'm just going to use partial freeze. So going up to the toolbar, I'm going to use the Select Mesh box. I'm just going to select this little corner here. Right click, and I'm just going to choose freeze. So this is available in 9.5. This is partial freeze, so it's gonna freeze only the section that I've highlighted. Oh, I don't want the corner though. I just want there. Freeze. And then I'm gonna bring in a softer fabric before we simulate. We'll do sateen. Okay, and simulate. These techniques do apply to Clo 3D as well. They are basically, they're the same program pretty much. It's kind of like a pin, except for it's freeze, so it's a little bit different. You don't have the pin available in your 2D window, so you just got to remember that. Yeah, everything I'm basically teaching will apply to Clo. I don't know why my mouse is doing this. Come on. Oh, that's why we're at 20. Let's bring this down to 10. Alrighty. So you can use partial freeze, or I'll show you the difference. So you see freeze here. I can't see it in my 2D window. But if I use just a single pin, where's my pin? Oh, I didn't turn these on. I'll just use the pin box. So I've got my pins here in the 2D window. You cannot make horses that deform the avatar because imagine how hard it would be to simulate a soft body avatar on top of deforming multiple layers that require bone. If you want to do a corset, deform your avatar first, and then you can create the corset. The computer I'm using, can someone, Danny or Eric in the chat, can you post the specs? So here is just a simple example of it, there we go, of how to make these layered ruffles. And you can see here, it's just the drape. I'm missing a lot. Let's see. How to make... You can use everything, you can make everything high, Dead Boy, you can make things very high detail in Marvelous Designer. The difficulty is that you're going to have to make them low res and then bake that into whatever you need for the specific game that you're making it and what you need it for. I keep losing the chat. Yeah, Deadboy, you're gonna want to just texture bake it, I recommend. Or, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, everyone the soft body avatars in real-time simulation, imagine how many computers you need to simulate that. Just the soft body avatar and deforming it live. Because you're going to have to account for fat, for skin, for muscle, and for bone. And then fabric. Let's see. Am I missing anything? Is there a way of pinning the point that is selected in the 3D window? There is. It's one of the hotkeys. I think I accidentally reset them from my user settings because I was doing some demos. But it should be... If I stop simulating. It's the W hotkey. So you just hit W and you just do once. W, click. Where do I learn Marvelous Designer online? We have a YouTube channel with a whole bunch of tutorials right on it. Here is our YouTube channel. Okay, I'm deleting this because now we're done with the curtains. Let's see. I'm going to answer some of the questions, actually, just because it's been a couple of minutes here. So for the steel-toed boot, you who had the question for the steel-toed boot, you're going to want to bring in an extra OBJ. So import OBJ. I'm just going to choose a rhinestone. You can load it as an extra avatar. Don't judge me, it's small. Actually, I'm gonna bring it in too big. This will let me answer 2 questions. Import OBJ, I'm gonna add this. And so we had a few issues in the Discord question in regards to importing in scale. So when I made this rhinestone, I made it specifically in millimeters. But if you didn't measure it, you're going to want to make sure you export it specifically in millimeters to whatever scale you're working in, because Marvelous Designer does work in human scale. So I'm going to bring this in centimeters, and it's going to be bigger, as you can see. So let's just say this is part of the steel-toed boot. I'm actually going to bring this up in space. You would bring in the portion that is the steel toe that you want to be hard or to be steel or metal. I'm just draping this over it. I know it's not a soft avatar. Hold on, let me smooth my avatar. Smooth avatar on. Okay, don't judge this, okay? Don't look at me like that. I know you are all judging me. I'm gonna make this metal. Only for talking purposes. So I'm just going to go ahead and tack this to, there we go. So you would bring in your OBJ and then you would then attach it to it using this as a morph target. But unfortunately, you can't really do solid objects unless you freeze them, and you want to make them very thick. So if you want to specifically keep everything in Marvelous Designer and you don't have an OBJ for your boot, you can steal it from the shoes, but you can also thicken your material, going down to the additional thickness render. Oop. Rendering, I can make this 10, and then looking in the 3D window, I'll just actually make this nope. It's so thick. Okay, there we go. Oh, I set it up pressure, not thickness. Don't put it on pressure, put it on thickness. Otherwise pressure will send it flying. There we go. So if you want a thicker material, you're going to use additional thickness rendering. Yeah, I made it pressure. Trying to keep an eye on the chat as well as this, and it's like, there's a P. I'm going to put it under pressure. It's my favorite one. Yeah, if you put it under pressure, it's just going to send it flying. And then you can also remove curved side geometry and just have whatever the shape is. Because this will be less flexible now because it's so thick. It is. Let me do this. I'm going to partial freeze just the top. And I'm going to bring in my rhinestone again. I'm going to load it. What did you ask? Load it as a trim. You would want to load it as a trim in the correct scale. And there's a little glue button, and I can just attach it. Let me give it a color. Oh, it's too thick. Hold on. There we are. I made it 10. And that is how you would attach it. You can also bring them in, OBJs in as buttons, and you can attach them as well and repeatedly. Let's see. Let's see. So we had a question about layering. So I'm going to bring in 2 garments. No, don't save. Add. And then I'll bring in an avatar. This is for the male avatar, so I'm just going to pick one of them. Alright, so there it is. But in this case, I want to tuck this shirt in underneath the pants. So for layering, remove that background image. I don't need that anymore. For layering, I'm going to select the pants. Actually, I'm going to freeze this first using Control K. Then I'm going to select the pants and go down to layer and make that layer 1. So it's above layer 0, which is going to be above the shirt. I'm going to simulate. It's going to go above the shirt now. It looks real nice, right? That is a fit. But now I'm going to unfreeze, and it has pulled the shirt in. And you can see here in the simulation, yeah, right? You can see in the simulation, the layer that's higher has a blue outline. So once this is done, I want to bring all my layers back down to 0, because if I did any animations, this would cause an issue. Pro golfer fit, right? This guy, he knows fashion real well. So that would be basically layering, especially if you want a real fancy golfer guy. Let me just make this a different color so you can actually see it. Not that dark. Oh man, it looks like a onesie. Alright, come on. We'll just drop that. There we go. But here you can see it is layered underneath, and you can see by the fit of the pant that this is actually tucked in underneath it. I'm adding animation to the list. We might not be able to get to your animation request today. Very Fresh Prince. Right? Yeah. We might be doing that next time, though. So come back, because I'm listing all of your requests. Pro golfer. Channeling those 90s. I know. He's pretty fancy. While we're here, we also had a question about folded cuffs and sleeves, so let's go ahead and fold the sleeve on this. So similar thing with internal lines. I'm just going to create an internal line here. I am going to make it a little bit easier and remove the sewing using the Edit Sewing tool to go up to that point by grabbing the little node there. And then I'm going to be using the Fold Arrangement tool, selecting it, and rotate that sleeve cuff and simulate. I'm going to push it all the way to 360 so you can see here. Now I can sew it back together using the free sewing tool. And that is how you get a cuff. That is a very simple and easy cuff, and you can do this again and again and again and again. You just have to be careful because you're going to be simulating more and more inside, and there's more and more collision there. Well, let's do it. Let's add another fold. So when you make your folds, you're going to want to make them slightly larger every time, just in general. I'm just going to cheat this and use this as my pattern offset. Offset as internal line. Let's make this 60. Sure, why not? 60 millimeters. Extend, okay. Right-clicking this and extend and trim. And I'm going to do the same thing. And just adjust my sewing. But the thing is that now that I've done this, I'm going to have to undo this sewing as well. Simulate. Okay. So now I do it again. I'm probably going to want to adjust this though, just a little bit. And it'll help if I increase the collision thickness. Probably to, let's do 4. Simulate that. Okay, and now, oh, actually the other thing that helps is I'm doing this at what, 10? No, 20. Let's do this at 10. Is the particle distance because it's starting to go through as you saw that issue happen. Now I can grab it. This is a little high on his shoulder, but this is what you would do. Give me 1 second. Let's just pull this down a little bit. Okay, I've made the sleeve a little longer. We'll just do that again. And I'm just going to click my internal line, make this 360. It's not an easy thing, so you got to fiddle with it, as you can see here. Like, it's a thing that you're going to have to do step by step. Everyone does. So you can tuck it in if you wanted. I don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and do it again. This might be a little too short. Just because I've adjusted it to pull it down, that's what's causing my issue here. But you can. Just gotta do it right the first time. Fine, be that way. Unfreeze, please. Okay. I've also been making clothes for 17 years now and patterning. It's like the only hard part is like rolling a cuff. If you know patterning, then you can do this. Okay, so there we go. I've done that cuff, and I can just do this one now. You just got to make sure to do it in the right order. Come on. There we go. That's better. Yeah. It's not really my kryptonite. It's just something that's just going to take you a minute. Especially if you just completely adjust your pattern so it doesn't fit anymore. Yes, thank you. So you do the inner pattern first. And then you can do the exterior afterwards. But that is how you would do a cuff. I completely destroyed the pattern, but we can keep fiddling with it if we want, or we can go on to another pattern. Oh, that's cool. But yeah, so this is how you do a cuff. What you actually want to do, and the reason it's colliding, is that this pattern is incorrect since I adjusted it. So the arm is actually too high and it's in the way. Or it's too big and it's in the way. So if I do this, I'll just show you guys as I struggle here. As it resets itself. You do not understand the difference. Well, this is what you would do. We'll do it on this one really fast because I adjusted the pattern and now it'll fit better. The difference between Chloe and Marvelous Designer is Marvelous Designer is meant for the film and CG industries, and Chloe is meant for the apparel industry, so they have different features for different requirements. And I think the prices are also different. For example, there's no seam allowance here because you don't need seam allowance. Where'd I put it? Oh, it's here. I hate when I do that. But yeah, you can turn a cuff. You just want to make sure to do it slowly. Can anyone elaborate? You could shrink it, but then you'd have to grow it, and so you can actually do this way. It's just a case of whenever you show somebody how to do something, it doesn't work. Murphy's Law is what's happening right now. There we go, see? Because now I can pull it down. The other option is that you can just layer them and cut them, and then sew them together and then merge them. So there's multiple different options. Marvelous Designer currently does not do grading. We may have grading in the future. So this is one way to do a turned cuff. I'm going to actually show you the easier way. I'm deactivating this pattern. And then I'm going to go ahead and tack this one. So if you don't want to if you don't want to do it this way, you can actually just, wrong option, activate free, activate, deactivate everything. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . I have colored my hair. I was pink last time and now I'm silver this time. Let's see. Fine. Just delete all the sewing. B, delete sewing. Thank you. So the little trick is if you want to do a rolled cuff like this, there's a few ways to cheat it. Because you would then sew these layers together and then merge them all instead of actually folding them naturally. How to get rid of lines after merging. Let's do that. So you saw me struggling with it. It can be a little bit difficult, but you just have to make sure to do it slowly and steady. So let's just say I want to merge these back together. I can use the B, which is the edit sewing hotkey, or I can use the just edit tool. I can select my two lines and merge them, which is going to cause some issues. So let's go ahead and just freeze that. I've merged them back together. On top of his arm, which I'll delete later. Because the point is, so these little blue lines, how to get rid of lines after merging. These are your base lines. They do happen in both Marvelous Designer and in Clo. Yeah, this solution's a little bit better, just layering them over each other and then doing it that way. But if you want an actual pattern method of doing it, you can just fold it. And so to remove baselines, you go up to the toolbar and you can use the trace tool. And you can right click and you can just, you can interact with your baselines this way. So I can trace them, or I can just select them and delete them. And you would need to do it twice because it had two segment lines and they've merged into one, so they're layered on top of each other. The baselines are for reference, so a lot of the time you'll see baselines in, we don't have them in these patterns. In patterns for like real pattern making, sometimes you'll see them in Clo. They're more used. So you'll see them across the chest, across the waist, and across the hips if it was a skirt. Across like the shoulder cap, you would sometimes see it here. They're also reference points as well. So let's just say that I wanted to make this sleeve into a raglan sleeve. I would merge this one to this armhole, the sleeve cap to the armhole. They are not the same shape. They are overlapping, and so I would have both lines, and I could use them as reference to then take that pattern back out in case I made a mistake with my patterning. And I can kind of take steps back and see where I was and what mistake I made and just kind of adjust it from there. I can also use them, I'm going to do it now. So when you merge them, it also is showing how much material you lose. So this much material is lost, so I might need to adjust and add some more bulk of the fabric to maybe the sleeve cap or to here and maybe widen it. So I can use this as a reference to know what manipulations or what changes that I need to make. To make fringe fabric, so fringe fabric, I currently don't have fringe, but I do have another, let me bring in a shirt here. So he's got a shirt. I do have another fabric that has some transparency to it. So you would just basically bring in your transparency file. No. So I've got my shirt. We're going to do it on the sleeve here. I'm going to add a new fabric, and I'm going to go to normal map. Oops. No, not normal map, sorry. To texture. Go to desktop, stream files. Oh, it is normal map. That was right. And I bring in my image with transparency. So if you want Fringe, I would recommend getting a picture of Fringe with transparency to it. You can remove it from... Marvelous Designer doesn't have that option with the puckering, but you would probably remove it from your texture. But yeah, so if you want to bring in and have anything involving Fringe, you would bring it in as your normal map. Because then you would have that fringe. Otherwise, you're simulating really, really small triangles. I mean, imagine that. Let's not imagine it. Let's do it. Let me show you. Offset as a line along a curve. Let's do a whole bunch of them. Let's do 30. Locking all my pattern outlines. A line on the bottom. And I'm going to make them a little bit lower. There. No, I want to still have some fringe. So at 20 particle distance, you can already see how small these pieces would be. If I bring this down to 10, that's a lot of triangles. And let me unlock all pattern outlines. Cut. And simulate. So if you want fringe smaller than this, it's going to be really difficult to simulate and taxing on your computer. So a more efficient way is to bring it in as a texture file. Or for sewing people, it's like bring it in as your prints and just have it be sheer. And then you can just make it really drapey. Because otherwise you're having to deal with all of this in any animation you want to do. The difference between free sewing and end-to-end sewing. Let me delete my avatar. Oh, let's not have mesh. So end-to-end sewing, actually it's end-to-end sewing, so we'll do 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2. Drag and drop, and I'm just going to delete that. So free sewing also has the end-to-end sewing feature, but so does segment sewing. So free sewing normally, I can do this group together. Holding them together, I can just sew them all. Let me see. Oh, didn't want to do that. Where are we at? 2. They're all going to sew together. Generally, you just do free sewing is 1 to 1, let's just say. And then end-to-end sewing is I can do however much of this that I want of each piece, hit enter, and then do the next segment that they're all going to sew into, as you see here. And I can create those sewing relationships, which you can see here in the 3D window. So normally free sewing, I'm just going to sew this one to each other without having to specifically be the exact measurement of that segment line. Whereas, but you can also do this with segment sewing as well. So I can just select all those segments, hit enter, and then sew them all together and hit enter. So they don't have to perfectly match. Free sewing, I can, you know, do whatever I want. But that's going to cause a lovely mess, as you can see. I might do Substance Painter after in another tutorial because I currently don't have Substance Painter on this computer. Or maybe Danny or Eric in the chat can answer that question. So for end-to-end sewing, when it creates groups, let me go back. So you'll see on the actual tool itself, delete all my sewing. So for end-to-end sewing, you'll see on the screen it says click on a point segment to begin free sewing. Once I've begun free sewing, a new prompt appears that says press enter to complete sewing. So once I've chosen all of the lines that I want to sew and to be the first line, I'm going to hit enter. And that's going to set all of those to a green color. And then I do the same with the bottom, or my next set of lines, and I hit enter to complete end sewing. So the first one's M and the bottom one is N. I meant the M and N. Okay, hold on. It creates groups, but they're always like, sometimes we do have the same color. They're grouped into pairs, but when you're first creating the sewing lines, they do have slight differences. But they are very slight. Is that your question? Oh, let me do another one. Backspace, enter. So I've created a red segment. And now I've created a purple one. These are separate sewing groups. So this is a pair and this is a pair. No, because they're two different sewing relationships that you've created. So you can change them using the Edit Sewing tool, but you can't change the groups collectively because they're two separate entities. They're two separate welding relationships, basically. You're gonna get different colors. It's gonna be random. Let me just do. It happens with all sewing. Once you've created a sewing relationship, you're going to try to differentiate the two. As you can see here, they're all different colors. You have different colors. That's fine. Because mine are green and then like lemon. It also just might be, unless they're severely different colors. That shouldn't matter, like, just letting you know what your sewing looks like. Delete that. Oh, they were breaking into different colors. You might not have been using M to N then. Let me see. The chat's going a little fast. So what you're saying is something like this is happening. But then they're different colors. Like this line here is purple and this line here is blue. What version are you running? Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't seen that before. If that's an issue that you're consistently encountering and you have to edit them, like, feel free to send us the file that you're working with so we can take a look at it. It's weird that it's doing that. I've never had that happen before. Yeah, we've never heard of that. If it happens, like, just let us know as well. I don't know what Slayer Cape is. Yeah. Can Eric or Danny in the chat link to the link to the support portion of the website? No, you're fine. This is a Q&A stream. I'd rather do this than, I guess, show you how to make wrinkles. Well, I do have the draping on the ball, so let's go ahead and just do that, unless, let's see. Because I don't currently have any animations backed up. Hello, welcome. Let's see. Wait, I had a question up here that I've missed. Some of these questions we're not going to be able to get to, but we will do them on another stream as well, because I've got a few requests before. Okay, so I've done layering. Haven't made fancy dress yet. Sorry, that'll be a tutorial. Folded sleeve or cuff, you guys watched me struggle bust that one, because that's always fun. Schedule for the next stream. We will post the schedule for the next stream later this week. AI tech. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Okay, you guys are talking about other stuff. Let me just show you the fabric drape, because I did see that request on the forum, on the Discord. Oh, actually, Alex, I can answer your question. So sometimes that happens if you have a button on your garment. Ooh. Okay, I've put a button there. Let me move so we can see the button. There we go. So this is in English, this is a meter by meter square on top of a ball. I told you your sari is going to be on a tutorial, like a full tutorial, because that takes a lot more time than doing it live. I cannot fold an entire 6 meter piece of fabric around a body in like 2 hours. I will be honest. So when that happens with the button, let me do it. Oh, this is, sorry, this is 5 particle distance. Let's make this 10. Oh no! So when that happens, and it's collided like that, you can, as long as you can select your button, you can select your button, right click, and you can reset your 3D position. You can even pull it out. I would recommend freezing your fabric and then, like, after pulling it out. Let's see. As well as if you have, if it's an issue with multiple layers, you can also set number of sewing layers. So if this is going through like 2 layers of fabric, you're gonna want to make this 2 so that it knows to be through the 2 layers. Normally you don't have that issue, but if you're encountering that, you might want to double check that 2 is set. Because normally it's set through putting your button through a buttonhole and then it changes. You can also flip it if you're having issues, and freeze it if you're having other issues. But generally you can just pull it right back out. Just for fun, let's see if I can do this. I'll just ruin everything. I'll put a buttonhole right here. Where's my fabric? There it is. So I'm just going to throw a buttonhole on here. And put it through. So it should be fine. So long as it's going through your buttonhole. So check your number of sewing layers, and if you're having other issues, remember to use the move tool, right click, reset 3D position, as well as if that doesn't work, you can just pull it out and then simulate. So people had questions about just the material presets, so I'm just going to go through those really fast. Again, this is a more realistic representation because this material is a meter by meter, so it is closer to human scale than others. And we'll simulate. This one is at 10 particle distance, not at 5. Dead boy, I'm on our main Discord, but I'm just kind of moderating, and I'll answer some questions, but not all the time. But our YouTube channel, some of the tutorials I've done, some of them other employees at Marvelous Designer have done, and you'll see a lot more tutorials on our official YouTube channel and our website. So this one is the cotton canvas. You can see a lot of the really stiff wrinkles here. It actually like flew up in the simulation. Let me grab, I'll just do this quick. I'll do interlining. Let's do a knit. Knit jersey, and you can see that it's falling down and stretching. I'll throw retopology in there. I'm taking the requests and I'm making a list for some of them because some of them need some more time and some more programs on the current computer that we're running for the stream. So let me see here. Yes, Dead Boy, it is really hard to do Indian, or it's really just hard to do garments with a whole bunch of pleats in them. That's really the issue. The more pleats, the more difficulty you will have in simulating. So now this one is Oxford muslin. So this is actually really stiff. You can see it's pulling away from it. And then I want to do a really soft one. There it is, silk crepe. And it's nice and floppy. But, so I said I would show this. We do have some presets in the Discord, but I did say that I would do this. But it seems like we have a few more questions as well. I can show the Fit to Unified in a minute. So this one is coat weight wool. So this is a lighter weight wool for draping. I really like the coat weight wool in Marvelous Designer for simulating like pants and for heavier materials, and you can just change the texture. So let's go ahead. I'm going to create a new project. No, I don't want to save it. Everything I've shown is, this is currently MD 9.5, but all of these fabrics that you're seeing here are available in Marvelous Designer. Hello, welcome. So let me bring in a garment. Actually, we'll bring in two. Bring in the pant. Add. So we had a Fit to Unified question. Oh. When I change preset, it doesn't change. Yeah, because you're changing the preset. So per square, who is this? Evil for per square. You can just put them in each one, and every square is going to export as a different file. I will show you the preset question though. So that would be how to export. Where's your question? Where's this question? Yeah, so you would do these things. So you would do this for each different file. You'd have your pants in one square and you would have your shirt in another. Let me show you the thing about it. So your presets are going to be different. Your presets are how it reacts in the world. And the fabrics here are just base fabrics that you can completely adjust. So if you go down and you've selected your fabric, you go to your presets. These are only for physical properties. So I can keep it at a chambray like texture, but just make this a leather cowhide preset. So it's going to drape and act like cowhide, but it's going to look like chambray. And this should be available in 8, which you do have. Modular configurator. Let's see, hold on. Fancy dress workflow. These ones are going to be longer, the other requests, and then how to make a hat. We could do a hat. We could do a hat. Right, let me add modular configurator. So modular configurator over here is all of the pattern blocks, Alex. So these are basic blocks that come with Marvelous Designer. They've been available with 8 as well. So if I choose women and I choose, let's just say a jacket. So I've got double-breasted jacket and a single-breasted jacket. So I'm going to choose single. And then we get our little frames here, which is where these patterns are going to pop up. And we have different styles of collar here. Oh, let me rotate around so you can see it. And then we have the back, and then we also have sleeve options. So these are some base pattern blocks that you can use and bring into Marvelous Designer to then manipulate and change and to create your own patterns from them. So when you see Modular Configurator, think of it as like pattern blocks that you can kind of steal from. Because you can also do like t-shirts. Double click. I've just chosen a v-neck. Yeah, so you can use all of these patterns. They're available for both men and women. Let's choose a men's trench coat this time. This one's a raglan sleeve. There's two options again, so double-breasted or single. And they bring them in. So someone had asked earlier what the baselines are for. You can actually see here these lines. So this goes across the chest and across the waist, and then this right here should be laying across the chest or in line with the chest as well. So when you bring in your when you are looking at these baselines, this is basically kind of like reference lines, and they go across, so you can kind of see how it works and how it will lay. Yeah, a lot of people actually forget that that this is an option and it's free. And you can even make your own and create your own modular relationships. You can. Oh, I should go back. Simulation. Need to delete them all. Yes. Closing that. You can create your own modular relationships, just going to modular mode. I've moved these there. So you can create them using modular templates, using these templates available here. And you can create your own. I don't know what you mean by can you manipulate this, Alessio. But let's go ahead and make a hat. Someone asked about how to make a hat. Let's make a very simple hat. I'm gonna make a bucket hat. Okay, maybe not that big. So I know how this super basic hat is created, so I'm just gonna create an internal ellipse in the center, and I'm gonna center the two. I'll just do it manually because I'm lazy. I'm gonna right click the internal ellipse and create that to a hole. And we'll move this in the 3D space. Rotate that. This is a giant hat, maybe not this big still. Just have that sit on the ground. And we're going to bring in the stiffer material, trim, hardware, just so it's stiff. And for the same thing, I'm just going to create this as a very simple hat, so I'm going to measure my internal ellipse, 185.4, and I'm going to bring that in as a rectangle. Clicking once, 185.4, and we'll keep it there. Oh wait, no, that should be right. Oh, that can't be correct. That's not right. Hold on. Z, double click. One segment is 185.4. 741.5. That's what I'm looking for. 741.5. Height will be 200. Delete. And I'll just sew the edges together. And sew with free sewing around the bottom. I'm going to freeze this, the hat brim basically. And in the 3D window, right click, superimpose side, and use GPU simulation, and then make it CPU simulation. It's a very tall hat. I need to flip my normal because it's backwards. And then I'm just going to clone as pattern for the top and do the same thing to the top of this. Also freeze just to make life easier. Again, right click and superimpose over this time. Select all of my hat, make sure it's all hardware, just because hardware is a little thicker and sturdier. I'm also going to increase the rendering thickness to 5. And again, this is just a super simple hat. And there we go. We have a very simple hat. Let me pull it. Forgot I need to. There we go. There. It would be a very floppy little summer hat. And you can make it stiffer too. I've just done this really quickly. So do you want a tutorial on how to create your own modular template or just how to use modular? Because one is much more difficult and pattern knowledge heavy than the other. Okay. So creating your own is going to be a lot more pattern knowledge heavy, just a heads up, because you have to make sure that all of them, everything you do sews into it itself. So that would not be done on this stream, but I have listed it in the tutorial requests. See, I've done the hat. Let's see here. A lot of these ones are going to either be tutorials, like full-on tutorials that we can't touch on, or I need to have another program live. Yeah, you're going to need to know how to do a lot of scaling. So let's bring in, let's see what's also on the list. I've pretty much shown everything here. Actually, done curtains. Let's see, I can show you how to make different types of wrinkles. I've done the fit to unified. So I'm just reading off the list of your requests from earlier. For sizes for now, tailoring knowledge is going to be kind of the thing that you're going to need to know. I mean, you can... I'll give you guys a little trick at the very least. Because if you're doing something using Modular Configurator, it's all going to be the same size. Yeah, you can do that. Let me bring in, actually, that's a good question. Let me bring in a file. Import FBX character. Oh, I brought him in too small. I specifically made him too small last time. We'll do CM. He's a little big, but he should have his skeleton. Can custom avatar have bones inside? Yep. I can grab its skeleton and move him. He's currently kind of almost too tall. He's still the right height, but I had him be too small because I was showing the last stream I was showing people how to catch if your avatar is too small for your workspace. So you would need to rig your avatar. So if you have an avatar in a T pose, you can bring it into, for example, like Mixamo, like Adobe has a feature for that. And you can add a rig to that avatar. But otherwise, the avatars that come with Marvelous Designer are all rigged as well. Or have bones. As you can see, she has her bones. And this also helps for posing them as well, if you ever need to. Because you can simulate cloth on them while you move their elbows and stuff. Just be careful not to do it in a weird way. Otherwise, you're, you know, colliding with your body, as an example. But yeah, so you can always do a simple rig like this on your avatars. You just need to have it done in another program specifically. And it does help if you rig your avatar like this. You can also use the auto arrangement points feature that comes with Marvelous Designer and just have it set to that avatar. Let's see. And let me see. Do we have one more question that I can potentially do? We are a little over, but we did kind of lose some time, so we can run over a little bit more. Otherwise, I'm going to start making a fancy dress. Any tips on controlling folds and wrinkles? So we touched on it a little bit earlier. This kind of goes in with the sorry request. So I'm just going to show you guys pleating. And the number one thing for creating folds and wrinkles that's going to help settle them is to turn gravity off. So right click in the 3D window, go to simulation properties and go to gravity and go to 0. It's going to make this float in space. So for creating wrinkles and specifically engineering them for folds, you can use your internal lines for this. And this goes for you, Dead Boy. You wanted to see how you would make pleats. This goes with your sorry request. I'm using the pleats fold tool. I'm just going to click across. I'm going to make sure that it is 3. Okay, and I'm going to strengthen it as well. Control H and simulate again. For tips on controlling folds and wrinkles, here is how you would create your folds. And you can also curve all of these. So if I wanted, I'm going to freeze this, actually. I'm going to create another square. And I'm going to turn gravity back on for wrinkles. So let's just say that I wanted this wrinkle here. I wanted these wrinkles to be more pronounced, let's just say. Here is a trick. You can use the line 3D pattern tool. Oh, I'm going to flip my normal really fast. And draw directly on across the wrinkle that's folding naturally. I'm going to right click and convert that to an internal shape. And then I'm going to make that wrinkle 0 and make it a much stronger fold now. And I can do that over here as well. Even though this is at 20 particle distance, this is a good way to kind of cheat how something is naturally falling. And you can do this with curve points as well. Double click to finish, and it appears in the 2D window. Using the edit tool, convert to internal shape, and do the same thing. And it's going to make this more pronounced. So that's one way to control your wrinkles. Yes, you can delete them after. So there's a trick. If you want to keep this, this also applies to the roll of a collar. So there's a few tricks. So you can select it, and you can turn your fold rendering off and simulate again. So it's a lot less pronounced of a line. Let me go and turn this off. But it's still there. As well as after you folded it, you can straight up delete this. And the wrinkle would be there. But also, let me bring it back. Another trick is you like how this looks. You can right click and you can solidify this and then delete these. So you've solidified this garment, it's going to want to stay in this shape. So if I pull it, it's going to want to stay in this kind of wrinkle shape, even though it's still flexible. So there's a few different ways to keep it. Let me make this 10 just so we can have a nicer looking one. So there's a few different ways to keep the wrinkles there and to get rid of that sharp line. But as you can see, I kind of baked it in at 20 particle distance, so it's still a little bit wobbly. All right, I solidified it, not baked it. You can think of it as, if you know sewing, you can think of it as starching, like heavily starching it. Because you can see here as I pull it up, it's keeping its shape. So this would work really well for hats as well, for hats making. How do I make sure the selection doesn't auto-complete? I don't know what you're asking. And by the way, I'm toggling simulation on and off with the spacebar. Oh, are you talking about sewing? I must have missed something. In the 3D window, when you sew or do any zipper creation or piping making, you double click to finish. Because if you don't, it will not auto complete. If I just do this and then I swap over to like a different tool, that disappears because I did not complete the line. So you click once and you double click to finish, and now the line has completed. If you don't get that line. So I can just click around, and it won't just exist anymore. If I just go to another tool, that process is forgotten. The same thing's going to happen. You're not going to get any free sewing. The sewing's going to cancel. Let me bring in sewing. Let me just sew. Let's say I want to sew these together. You have to double click. You have to double click to finish, otherwise it won't complete. 1 and 1, 2. The same thing applies. You have to double click to finish that selection. So for free sewing, for any of the pen tools, for the line tack tools, and for the piping and the zipper, to begin your sewing, or to begin that relationship that you want to create, you click once and you keep clicking. Once you're done, you double click. So if I trace my 3D line, I right click, I double click it to select all of them, because each segment point can be selected, a segment line can be selected separately. I can right click and convert to anything I want, or cut and sew it. And if you want to make pleats, again, this is getting in the way. If you want to make pleats, this is the simple way to do pleats. You can actually just use the pleat folds tool. You can create a zipper within an internal shape, but you have to have space for that zipper to occupy. I will answer the zipper question, and then I'm gonna go, and then we're gonna end the stream. So to do this, where is this on my zipper? I need to have an open space the same size as my zipper. Otherwise, you're going to have that collision issue. So I'm just going to convert this to a hole, just so we can do this. Convert to hole. Oh, that's going to be a real fun. I'm going to move that. There. And I can change my zipper. So I click once for my zipper. I click twice to finish, and then on the opposite side, I do the same thing. Click once, twice to finish, going the same direction. And you can see this is too small, so it's going to actually make it bunch. So I'm just going to go ahead and make my hole a little smaller. And if I want, I can make my zipper bigger. Let's see what 7 millimeters looks like. Yeah, we'll do 7. And simulate. And there is my zipper. It's doing this because I baked it. Not baked it, I solidified it. I'll just throw that back on. Okay. That should be better now. But if you're going to do a zipper on the inside of a garment, you're going to want to do it like a little rectangles to give it space. Where is this? Reset. There we go. Just so you can see it. I know it's big. Gotcha. But yeah, for a zipper, same thing, just double click. I'm sewing this on the wrong side, so it's going to be really angry, which is why it's going to do this. There we go. There's my zipper. And a fun thing with their zippers is you can turn off simulation and pull them partway open. I hope that answers your question. Sorry, my mouse is a little wobbly. But that does end it for today's stream. We do have a bunch of tutorial requests. So let's go ahead and go to end. I don't like that it's copying the front. So let me throw these up on the screen. So I know it was only 2 hours today. We're still trying to figure out when to do the streams, so let us know. A lot of this was ad-libbed, so thank you for being kind. But in the chat, I'm going to post our website. If you have more questions that you want to see on specifically for the stream, or if you have ideas that you want for the streams, send an email to that email specifically. Do not send any support requests, because we do have a specific support request email. Here is the Discord, so if I'm not on to answer questions, there's a bunch of other users that are super helpful in our Discord. This is an invite link to the Discord. They're all really nice, they're super helpful, and they're very, very knowledgeable, and they might be able to answer your question if I or Danny or Eric are not online at the time. And lastly, I'm going to link our YouTube channel, which I know a lot of you are currently on, but just in case. So on our YouTube channel, we do have a bunch of tutorials that we are uploading more and more, and we're currently working on them. So feel free to let us know what you want to see, as well as keep an eye on them. We do have a bunch of beginner tutorials on how to kind of start learning how to make patterns and basics, utilizing what comes with Marvelous Designer, as well as like how to trace a pattern if you have to. You've seen me do it, but I do want to stress that if you do trace a pattern that you find online, just don't steal other people's work, because if someone has made a pattern that they designed, you're stealing someone else's design. So just be aware of that specifically. And oh, in the Discord, I did post in our pattern resources, there's actually free patterns available for 18th century, 19th century garments. I posted that in the chat in the pattern references, specifically because a lot of the Crytek users had a bunch of questions on resources for those. So again, thank you so much. Thank you to Eric and Danny for helping me out. Thank you guys for your patience for the stream, because we lost connection there for a little bit. Thank you for watching, and keep an eye on our social media. We will let you guys know when the next stream will be up. Thank you guys, and have a good night or day wherever you are.